Let's now go ahead and bring in the artwork we cleaned up in Photoshop into Illustrator so we can lock it into a template and get it ready for tracing. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of everything I don't need right now, and I just want to focus on my layers for now as well. Let's go to the File menu, and we're not going to choose Open. Don't forget, we're going to choose Place instead, because Open will open the artwork into its own document, and I want to have the ability to place this as a template right away. So choose File, Place, navigate to where you saved the artwork, which I called in the last lesson Poster Sketch Clean, and what I'm going to do is click Place. Now that I have this artwork, I'm going to move it over where I want it to be. Don't worry about the size, because in Illustrator, since we're working with vectors, we can scale this up or down all day long and it will not diminish the quality of the work. So we can leave the sketch the way it is, and then when we're done with the artwork, we can zoom the whole thing up. Double click where it says Layer 1 to open the layer options. And you'll notice, by the way, that I clicked right about here. I try to click away from the words when I can, when I want to get the layer options open. Let's go ahead and rename this Template, or call it Template Sketch, whatever you're comfortable with, so you know that this is the artwork. I'm going to leave the color as light blue. I'm going to select Template, which automatically will dim the image to 50%. I'm going to click OK. And that's a little too bold for me still. I want to be able to trace this artwork and only want to have a reference to this artwork instead of having it so dark. So let's go ahead and return to the sketch template by double clicking where it says Template Sketch. And where it says Dim Images, let's drop this down to about 25 and hit OK. And that to me is much better. I can really see the artwork, and I'll be able to see the lines that I'm drawing over it, which makes things a lot better for me. Now, let's think about some of the layers that we're going to want to have in this document. Well, for one, we're going to want to have one called Text or Type. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this Background. I'm going to create another layer again, and I'll call this Eye. And yet again, another layer, and I'll call this one Mask. And this is actually going to be the funerary mask and not any mask effects. We can always create a layer for the special effects later on. Let's also create a layer called Sun for this icon or artwork back here. And now that we have some layers, I'm going to start to think about the placement. Well, I want the type, of course, to be on top of the background and normally in front of everything. So I'll put the type at the very beginning. Here we have the background, and then in front of the background layer, we should have the sun. And then we're going to have the mask, and the eye is going to be on top of that. Don't forget about the stacking order. This is our very lowest stack of paper. On top of that, we have the background. On top of that, we have the sun, and so on. We'll add more layers as we need them. And I can already see that I need to add one for the hieroglyphics, so I'm going to create another one. I'll just call it Glyphs for now. And we have other design elements that we can add. So as you see, I like to think about what I'm doing in advance with the layers. And let's see here, the glyphs and designs are going to be right next to each other, and the eye, as you see here, is on top of both of those. So we have the eye that sits over the glyphs and the designs, the funerary mask, the sun, and the background. At this point, let's save our document. And on my desktop, I'm going to call this Poster Layers. Now, we're ready to think about tracing this artwork and to think about some of the colors we're going to add for our entire document here. So let's get ready to move on to the next part.